If you guys like this video, then consider supporting me on Patreon. With just $1 a month, your name can appear in videos just like these. I think everyone by now knows about the show Bluey, and for good reason. If you're a kid, you'll love the show for the great comedy and animation. And if you're an adult, you'll love it for the emotional moments in animation. Basically, a great show for all ages. So anyway, Chip Chilla. Yeah, this show is getting a lot of flack for being a copy of Bluey. But not just any copy of Bluey, a conservative copy of Bluey. But first, we should probably talk about how we got here in the first place. You see, it all started with a little website known as the Daily Wire, a conservative news website and media company founded by political commentator Ben Shapiro and film director Jeremy Bowen. You may also know Jeremy in movies like 2007 Spiral, Miles from Home, Sudden, Terror on the Prairie.
Was that English?
Well, anyway, in January 2021, the Daily Wire released their first ever movie, One Hide Fight. If you want my opinion on it, I would recommend Jose's video on it, link in the description. The point is that this was a sign for things to come. And on June 29, 2022, it did just that.
Pun entirely intended.
You see, in March of 2022, the Daily Wire announced their new unit in their works called Daily Wire Kids, or DW Kids for short. One of the shows they announced being Chip Chilla, originally under the title Chilla Time. Then, on October 16, 2023, Jeremy Bowen revealed in a 9-minute live stream that the Kids division had officially been launched, now a standalone streaming service called Bent Key, saying the reason for the name change was that it was being too political. The title too political? Nah, whatever gave you that idea? Well, beyond that, the show was finally released, and was met by an astounding hatred by everybody. Yeah, it's no secret that the show has been scrutinized, especially within Australia. Now, I'm gonna be honest here for a minute. As much as I knew this show was probably gonna suck, I did still have some interest in it. I mean, even if it was bad, there would still be something to talk about. So when the show finally released, I decided to watch all 12 of its episodes. And it was... well, it was something. Let's start with the designs of the show. Design-wise, especially in the backgrounds, it is very reminiscent of Bluey. Now, when Boeing brought these accusations up, he said that it was a silly notion for that to be the case. Which means all of this could just be one big coincidence. But when you really look at everything, you can really see how someone could easily make that assumption. And this probably wouldn't have been such a problem if they had just stick to the original design. As said before, the original title was called Chilla Time, and it did have an original design to it. Now, some people have said that it does look a little generic, but for me personally, I prefer this style a lot more than the style that we do have. Even with the announcement trailer, you can see more style in not just the animation, but the characters as well. Speaking of which, we should probably talk about the characters. All the characters are stock standard. If you see one cartoon family like this, you've seen them all. The only one that actually has a personality is the dad. Most notably because he's the person that gets everyone into the adventure. Other than that, we have the everyday mom, the overzealous kid, the know-it-all sister, the baby, and a dog. There are other characters in the show, but they contribute very little to the story. Branching off that, we should probably talk about the voices. Now, to be honest, all of them are okay except for one of them. That being the title character himself, Chip. Now, this is not the fault of the voice actor himself. This is obviously his first time voice acting, and it shows. While the others give a pretty decent performance, Chip just seems off to me.
My head's gonna fall off because of all the medals I'm gonna win. Is this what you wanted? Are you happy now? Crocodiles? Piranhas? Dentists? How will we cross?
Other than that, everyone else is okay. I could say that it's a surprise to seeing Rob Schneider, the voice of the dad, be a part of this, but it's not. It's really not. The nostalgia critic wasn't kidding when he said Adam Sandler movies were made just to give Rob Schneider work. I also wanted to point out that in one of the episodes, one of the characters is voiced by Matt Walsh, which leaves me with two things to say. First off, you couldn't have gotten Steven Crowder. I know you guys aren't on the best terms, but it would make more sense seeing as he was the brain from Arthur for 2 seasons. And secondly...
oh, that's better.
Girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile.
Finally, let's get into the episode themselves. Now, one thing I don't think is talked about enough is the fact that the characters are actually homeschooled, which, to be honest, is an interesting concept. We've seen many cartoons before where characters go through the normal school life, so for seeing a different perspective on teaching is very admirable. And I say all this in the fact that this is the only interesting thing about the show. Yeah, literally what everyone else has been saying about it. Literally take everything you know about Bluey and leave out everything that made it interesting. In fact, I could tell you all the episodes right now in very few words. In fact, that's not a bad idea. Hang on. Some people deserve first billing. Learning to mind your business next on TCT. Also, is that a Bandit reference? Don't be so controlling. It's Abby normal. Yeah, go figure. We both have it bad. Everyone's useful for something. Be humble. Practice more. Sit down. Just do good with what you're good at. Practice more. Sit down. Just do good with what you're good at. Don't go crazy looking for something or you'll break other people's shit. Another man's trash is another man's treasure. And don't judge somebody until you get to know them. Also, for some reason, it's the lowest rated episode. Be brave in spite of being scared. Sometimes let go of power. Nah. Too easy. We'll talk about you later. And finally, the wonders of simple machines. Also lessons. See what I mean? Took very little to talk about. I probably wouldn't mind so much if it wasn't for the fact that the pacing of the show is so unbelievably slow. And when I say slow, I mean that it takes 1 minute to get into a nearly 8-minute plot. Along with that, it carries a not so great execution of the messes. Take the episode Chilla Swap for instance. The episode's your basic role swap. The kids become the parents and they see how hard adult life really is. There's just one problem with it. You see, during the episode, they put themselves in constant danger, doing things like breaking the thermostat and nearly causing a fire. And the parents are being completely dismissive of it. Granted, they're supposed to be acting like kids, but you can still act like kids and not put your actual kids in mortal danger. Take, for example, the Bernstein Bears and the Trouble with Grown-Ups. You see, after the parents realize that it's no easy being a kid after seeing brother and sisters euphoric play, they still express that being a grown-up is just as hard. And to show them, they decide to switch roles for the day. Of course, by the end of it, they learn their lesson, but the parents still put in precautions to make sure they don't do anything deadly, albeit jokingly.
We thought that maybe you'd like to be the parents today and we could be the cubs. Oh, but no driving the car.
But I think the best episode to show this is the 11th episode, The Fall of Room. Most probably the most controversial episode. You see, in this episode, Chip leaves his toys all over the house, which leads to the infamous scene of the other family members destroying the toys. Now let me make it clear, this episode is using the fall of the Roman Empire as an allegory for cleaning up after yourself. That part is made extraordinarily clear.
You see, the real Roman Empire fell because they became too big, and they thought they were so awesome that they got lazy and took what they had for granted.
That is not the problem. The problem comes up with the other characters breaking the toys. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna say that's not what happened, but it kinda was, though. He basically said what had happened, and the dad confirms it.
You're telling me that I get my toys broken, my room invaded, and I lose my big, awesome empire?
Yeah, basically.
And if you really wanted to make the messes of telling people to clean up after themselves, there were better ways to do it. Again, look at Bernstein Bears. You see, after being told to clean their room and not doing it properly, it ends up with him breaking something important. And the broken item was the fault of only himself. If you're looking for another good example of this, look at, and you're not going to believe me when I tell you, Caillou. See, Miss Mon lets the students mess up the classroom, and Caillou later does it in his room. And in just one day, we see how it's hard to find things, how it's hard to navigate, and how some things are unusable. So even Caillou has a better understanding of doing this lesson. So yeah, Chip Chilla is not good. It's basically everything that Bluey isn't. If it wasn't for the Bluey palette, it would have just been another boring kid show. Are there any positives? Well, I do like the pet designs. I'm actually surprised that Bluey hasn't given us a pet in this universe. Maybe because it raises too many questions, but it hasn't stopped these shows in the past. Other than that, just watch Bluey.
And now there's an angry mob outside my newsroom.
Yeah!